Aisha's page, and she did a phenomenal job interviewing me. And now we are live on NNYA Lit, and we're going to be talking about motivating yourself as a leader, as well as those who are called to motivating teams at this time. All right. So Aisha, why don't we start from the beginning? Like, tell everybody about who you are, how you became this phenomenal leader, and tell us about the work that you do.
Yes, yes. So it's funny, like when I tell people my leadership story, because I never intended to ever be a leader. I'm West African, came to the United States as, about a 10, 9-year old, and coming to another country was very different for me. I left this, experience that I had and this upbringing that I had, and then I was rooted into a whole nother world because, of course, my mom was an entrepreneur. She had a hair salon. My father was very successful back home. West Africa is a country called Sierra Leone. If you ever guys have ever seen Blood Diamond, that was my country. But they saw America as an opportunity for them to thrive. There's a lot more
Right.
opportunities here. So they looked at it from the big picture perspective, but I don't think they recognize the struggles that their daughters and their son would have transitioning from one country to another. So I really struggled, and I experienced bullying and a lot of trauma. So being a leader was not on my mind. I wanted to fly under the radar. I was more of a follower because in my mind, a follower kind of stayed behind the scenes. I will follow the leader because, if I follow the cool people or if I follow what everybody else is doing, I pretty much fit in. And one of the most interesting struggles that I had was trying to fit in as an African woman in Black America because it was a totally different experience. I tell a lot of
Can you
people.
say a little bit about that? Because a lot of people, if you're black, you're black, but that's a different kind of perspective. And I'm a child of immigrants, so I know that. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, because I tell a lot of people it's interesting that experience because I never heard about slavery until I came to the US. Because I'm connected to Africa and I never heard about the civil rights movement. So it was different hearing about oppression and being enslaved when I came up a country that, if you do look at the history, it was made up by freed slaves, people who was born into slavery who decided to go back to their homeland, and they actually used to fight against the slave trade. But it was different for me to hear about all these, discriminatory experiences that people that look like me had, but also I wasn't accepted by people who look like me. And the interesting part is when I first got here, I was at a more, I guess, white or Caucasian school, and I was fine. But when I went to the Black school, African booty scratcher, my
Oh
clothes were
man.
weird. Oh, it was a mess. I used to, like, if you watch those movies about like the nerd that gets on the bus and no one wants them to sit by them, that was me. And it was really awkward for me to enter into a space where I'm finally around people who look like me, but they didn't accept me. So it was
Right.
so awkward. So I find myself, my name's Aisha. So I literally, it's like I rebranded myself. I became Aisha. My accent went away. I became a totally different. Oh, that's
What?
fair. Yeah. So whenever people call me Aisha, I'm like, that's the old me. But that was like my new persona because Americans call me Aisha. So I was like, I guess that's how you say my name. Black Americans wanted to dress a certain way. So I'm like, let me change how I dress. So I had
Wow.
a totally different persona. If you go back home and you meet people in my area that know me, they know me by Aisha. So I had a totally
Wow.
different personality to fit into Black America. So it was really awkward, and I have become so Americanized that I understand my language, but I can no longer speak it. So now I seem like the foreigner when I go home, because I totally separated myself from it. And again, I don't think my parents understood that struggle. So again, from transitioning to become this leader, it was never on my mind. I joined the military, and I joined the military for it to pay for my school. But what I wasn't realizing is I was joining a machine that was going
Mm.
to develop you into becoming a leader. So it was like leadership chose me, or I chose it, and I just didn't know. So really, it was the military, and I've been in since 2003, and that experience really started to develop me as a leader because I had to lead. I mean, if I want to stay in it, I had to lead. So I had to learn how to be more confident. I had to learn how to develop others. I had to learn a lot of things through that experience. So leadership, I chose it and I didn't even realize I was choosing it. So leadership fell on my lap. It's not no like proud story, guys.
Your friend is coming up the stairs right
I
now.
hear him. I hear him. It's okay. What up, man?
Look who I'm talking to.
Hey, little Leon. Hey.
So, what was that? So, you talked about going into the military. What was kind of that turning point or critical moment in your life that you took that step?
So, I was in college. So before that, I worked at a bank. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties. Man down.
This is the life of working from home with a 2-year-old.
Man down. Listen, but that's the reality, man. We got to push through, you know? Like we're moms. We have to juggle a lot of things, but as I was saying, so I joined. Before that, I was working at a bank, and I started to learn about debt, and I really started getting an understanding about loans and things of that sort. So when I was in college, I was taking out student loans, and from me being educated from the banks, I started to be like, you know what? I think that I don't want to be in a space where I have to get loans to pay for school. So that's what really gravitated to me towards starting to look into the military because they pay for your schooling. So, you know, I ended up joining the Air Force because it made sense for me with what I was trying to do with school. But like I said, within 2 weeks of being in basic training, guess what? I was selected to be in a leadership role. My MTA was like,
Wow.
yes. I was like, Airman Thomas. They used to have like they would have rumors or things that they would say when you go to basic training, don't do this, don't do that. So they used to say if you're tall, you're like more likely to be picked to be a leader. And I was like, y'all tripping. Y'all tripping. But here I am, and I'm tall, and I'm like, I get picked to be a leader. So that was my first real experience with leading because prior to that, working at the bank, I was a head teller. I managed other people, but I managed them from a space of wanting to be liked. I led from my trauma. You know, I wanted to be accepted because, again, I had shaped my life so much for being accepted. So I pretty much allowed them to kind of dictate how I did things. But now I had to lead other people and I had to show them how to fold their shirts, make sure they maintained their bays. I was managing 9 women that I didn't even know. And
Wow.
I ended up getting fired within a week.
But you know what's so funny about that? And I asked that question because a lot of our leaders out there, whether they're undergrad or they're young professionals, they feel like this pressure to make a decision of where am I going to go next? What am I going to do next? And I love that you kind of had a moment of self inventory. This is the reality of my life. This is where I want to go. And you made a decision to take a next step. And from that decision, you were offered new opportunities. And I think there's a level of no matter what your next is, you got to trust yourself and trust, trust whatever opportunities are available and know that you're going to thrive in that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what I really love about you, and you didn't even do justice to how amazing you are as a leader and as a leadership developer and an expert in leadership development, because you have really been helpful to us and our team in really looking at each individual leadership type, and being sensitive to who people are as leaders and developing in a team in a way that you can maximize the level of your execution. And you do that in a really, really interesting way with really simple strategies that make the world of a difference. So you hear about everything that's going on. You've been on some of the calls and have helped our team work through some things. Can you talk a little bit about everything that's happening with people having to stay at home and a lot of the anxiety around the shifts that are occurring? What are some key strategies that people can use during this time, particularly those who are leading and who are developing leaders?
Yes, yes. I think it's really important. Like there's some three key areas that I think that as leaders have to really focus on. But the first area is your confidence. I truly believe that in order for a leader to be effective, you have to make sure that you are effective. Sometimes people are in leadership roles and they haven't even taken care of their mess. They haven't even had a bubble around them to make sure that they are grounded. So I think in this season of transition, I call it a transition season, you're having to sit down. But as a leader, you have to reflect on yourself first. I talk about the area of confidence. Confidence is when you're assessing things like your self care, your emotional care. How do you feel about yourself? What
Mm,
what what kind of from this last week or week and a half of us being, homebound, what triggers have you had? What things have come
mm,
up? Who have you snapped on? You're probably noticing that there's some areas that keep coming up during this week. Like I'm a single mom. I know during this week I've had to my son, I knew my son had accidents in the bed for 7 days straight. And I was like, I felt like a
mm,
certain kind of way as a mom. So what I did, I went and assessed and I was like, oh, my son had a routine. He was up by 6:30 in the morning. He would go to use the restroom and so on and so on. So what did I do? I started getting up earlier, waking him up and having him go to the restroom. And I know that's an awkward example, but that's the reality. I need you to pay attention to the patterns that you're seeing this week. How many
ooh,
people
that's
have you
good.
snapped on? Is the person that you're in the household with, are you arguing with them more often? And it might be because you're not used to being around them as much. You might be noticing, like, man, I had never ate at home as much as, ever before. But what are
Mm,
the
those
things?
Doritos.
Yeah. But I need you to really pay attention and think about what are the patterns that you are seeing and what you'll probably identify as what area in your life you need to address. Is it your emotional care? Is it time for you to finally look into a therapist? Is it your physical care? Are you like, man, I'm stuck in the house, or I've been eating crap all week and I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself? Because as you heard with the coronavirus,
Mm,
people who have weak immune systems are the ones that are more likely to get it. Well, a lot of us don't know is that by fitness and health and making sure we're taking care of our bodies, our immune system becomes stronger. You might realize that it's the faith aspect. You might realize as soon as you get up, and every morning I get up, I'm just straight on my Instagram page. I need to really use this time to get closer to God and making sure
mm,
that you are addressing those areas because you might have been on the move so much as a leader that you have never had a time to recognize these patterns that you have. So take inventory, look at the patterns that you have seen and figure out what area you need to address and take care of first. So that is extremely important. The second thing is what I call is criticism. Just like we were talking on my live earlier,
mm-hmm.
in regards to the people that you support, have you taken time to ask them what they need, what they
Yeah.
want? There's some things that you probably realize as a leader you have to become more innovative. You might have not realized, like, man, we probably need to have more social media access. We probably need to start adding this type of platform onto our services or our products or whatever it is that you're doing. You're probably realizing those things, but the people that are pushing your mission, they're the ones that probably see a lot more of the breakdowns than you do. Because a lot of times as leaders we're focused up here, but we're not recognizing the breakdowns down here. So you need to take time and assess your teams. If you're a leader at home, ask your family, like, what kind of things or what kind of breakdowns are you seeing, and what kind of things do you think that's going to help this
Mm-hmm.
business or this ministry team? What's going to help us become better? So once you take care of those things, then I have this area that I call customization, right? And this is where you truly get to understand your people. Like with your team, you are such an amazing leader that you've allowed me to come in and perform a series of assessments. And in these assessments, now they're getting an understanding, and you're getting an understanding of the different behavior
Mind blown.
styles and the different behavior styles that you put
Mind
forward.
blown. Can I just say, as a leader and the majority of the people on my team, I also mentor and I've known them for years and years and years. And as much as you know someone or think you know someone, that assessment becomes game changing because not only does it tell you who they are, but it also tells you who they are in their adaptive. And you coming in and adding that layer to our team has had so many benefits. So many benefits in them understanding themselves better and having some language around that. And then for me as a leader, understanding when is it time to push, when is it time to be supportive, when is it time to be a mentor. So can you talk a little bit about the assessment and how, as an expert, I just want to show off on you because it's been
Oh.
so helpful, particularly, and we started doing this before everything transpired with coronavirus and the mandatory stay in the house. And so having that experience of doing them during this time has made it a little easier somehow, even though it's still a lot of transition. So can you talk a little bit about those assessments and that customization?
Yes, yes. And like I said, for what you did as a leader, you decided, okay, you took the time to take that inventory and get that self awareness for yourself. And you like, you know what? I see this tool, this assessment benefited me. So I need to add that to my team so I can have a better understanding. So the DISC is like three layers. There's the DISC assessment, there's the values assessment. And it's really important because you're learning about people's external behaviors, their strengths, their blind spots, and you're also finding out their internal motivators, those things that motivate them, right? So, for instance, one of your team members, very creative. You actually have two very creative team members. So they like input. They like to be able to be innovative. One of them is very high individualistic. So she leads with, listen, I like to do things like with like my special edge and my touch to it. So in finding out that information about your team members, I was able to tell Nathalie, like, listen, Nathalie is very interesting. She's really interactive, but she is results driven. She's the kind of person, if she sees a problem, she's going to fix it today. But some people on her team, they see a problem today, they're going to fix it maybe 3-4 days down the line. Because why? They need to assess it. They need to figure out, okay, let me weigh my options, let me do some research. So just imagine, as a leader, you're results driven, you like stuff done today, you
So
have a
you're going to send that
team.
to me in 2 hours, right?
Yeah. Right, exactly. And then you are asking someone that needs 2-3 days to process things. It's like, and people don't know that about each other, they're butting heads. Man, my leader just wants everything done. It's stressing out that other person who needs time to assess it. So now I'm able to tell Nathalie, hey, you have a team of people who are high S's. They like to go at a certain pace. They like to really make sure they're providing you a quality product. So does this really have to be due? Like, is that due today? Like, can we give them 2-3
It was due
days?
like yesterday.
Yes, I know, right? And then if you add the fact of what's going on right now with the coronavirus, they tend to internalize. They tend to they're a little bit more stressed during the season, so they need even more time. So now from that, you've been able to take that in as a leader and say, listen, I'm going to customize my experience with them. So I know when I talk to this team member, they need this. So I'm going to give them a little bit more detail and a little bit more time. I know with this team member, they like interaction. So I'm gonna make sure that before we get into work, we gonna laugh, kiki, talk about how you've been, and then we're gonna transition into the work. And that's why it's so important that you customize your experiences with people that you support and even the people you're communicating to within your household. Because what you don't realize is that you guys might be speaking different languages, and that's
Mm-hmm.
affecting how you guys communicate. It's affecting your productivity, and that is going to affect your business or going to affect your ministry. It's going to affect your
Yeah.
household. So what I respect from you is because you've been able to see how this tool has helped you grow. And now
Yeah,
you've been able to
definitely.
bring in your spouse took it, and your team. And now it's allowing you to shape your experiences, and you've been able to customize your experiences with each one of your team members. So kudos to you for that. But it's really important that you guys take advantage of these assessments, take advantage of getting to know your team so you can customize how you communicate to them, because not everybody speaks the same language.
Yeah, and I think that is so critical, particularly as you said before, with this time of heightened anxiety, heightened uncertainty, so many shifts, staying in the house, being, um, for those of us who've worried about 401ks, all of these different things, churches. And so having that data so that when I do a live or I do a virtual training or I do a virtual meeting, before people even come in the room, I have a sense of the 4 types of people that I'm addressing. And that is so powerful, particularly for those of us who need to motivate teams. Can you talk a little bit? So you talked about some strategies to motivate. So this is something that has come on a lot. You weren't on our check-in call today, but a lot of people are feeling like, I'm in the house, I've been binge watching, and I'm just having trouble just, a simple thing of getting online and doing my classwork. Or I'm not really sure with all of this graduation stuff what I should do next. Can you give some really like small nuggets of, this is what you do first, this is what you do second in your daily routine to have some strategies to remain motivated and to thrive? Because the misconception is, because there's a lot of uncertainty, I need to be anxiety filled, or, all of these things. But you can thrive in changing and shifting. And even when everything doesn't feel 100% solid, you can still thrive in that space and in that tension.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that we forgot. So I had a client today, and her assessment talked about how overly critical she is on herself. And I think sometimes we forget about how we've gotten over so many other things. Like, there's probably a breakup you've been able to overcome. There's probably been a season where you haven't been sure what you're going to do that you were able to get over. And you somehow have forgotten about that. Like, you
Mm.
might have forgotten about all the things you have been able to overcome in the past. So what I want you to do first is think back, think about like some times that might have been worse than this. I mean, if I think back of some things I went through in my past, I'm just like, well, this ain't nothing. Like, this is nothing compared
All I gotta
to
do is
some
stay in the house.
seasons. Yeah, like all I gotta do is stay in the house. So really, I really want you to take time to start thinking about, what have I overcame in the past? Because you've
Yes.
gotten through some things, girlfriend. You've gone through some things, brother.
Can
And
we insert a shot right there? Thank you.
and
Thank you,
Jesus, no.
Lord. I
But
didn't
no,
know how I
seriously,
was going to get through it,
yes.
but you did it anyhow.
Yes. But again, take inventory. Think about, celebrate all those little wins and all those things you've been able to overcome. You're in your
Mm.
master's program. Like, there are a lot of people learning their master's program. I'm like, I'm in my I tell a lot of people, like, I'm in getting my bachelor's now. I'm like, I'm getting through school, but I'm 37 and I'm like, I'm getting through school. You've made it to your master's degree. You've been able to pass a class. Like, celebrate those wins that you see, celebrate those
Yeah.
moments that you had, remember those. And once you recognize those,
Mm.
again, get those positive emotions flowing, you can probably think about how you were able to get past that and utilize those same strategies. But if not, ask yourself, hey, what is my big goal? What's the thing that I need to get to within the next quarter? Okay, well then, if I know I need to figure out what job or what place I'm going to go to next when I transition out of school, or where I'm going to go next. Okay, once you identify what you want to do, start thinking about daily tasks or weekly things you can start picking at every day to get
Mm-hmm.
closer and closer to it. I'm working on another book. So every day I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure that between 7 and 8, when my kids are asleep, I'm going to just write until I can't write anymore. So again, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we think that we have to save the world today, when you have
Mm.
time to start chipping away at that thing little by little. But I need you to remember that you have been able to overcome things in the past. This ain't nothing, sis. This ain't nothing,
Yeah.
bruh. You know?
You got this.
You got this, and on the other side of that thing, you probably like, oh, this is why God brought me here. I know
Mm.
exactly why God said no in certain seasons, or not yet. Because now I'm on the other side of it. I'm just like, man, that's
Mm.
why. So you
You
have to
dropping the
remember.
nuggets. Listen, y'all like, share, comment, tag a friend. Aisha just getting started. That's just nugget 2. Keep going, sis.
But no, but again, celebrate those wins. Think about all you've accomplished. Find those little things that you can strategize and find that you can chip away at day by day. And then again, this is another time that I need you guys to assess your circles.
Mm.
Listen to
Ooh.
me. I need you to assess your
Oh.
circles. You're going to be so tempted to get into that text relationship. You're going to be so tempted to allow him or her to come over. You're going to be so tempted because you're someone that loves interaction. You like to be around people. But I heard something great today from Darius Daniels. He talked about there are people that are in different spaces in our life. And sometimes you might have people in the wrong spaces. So some people might just be assignments. God literally brought you into their life, or they brought, or vice versa, just for you to learn a lesson in that season. So now you want to stick with somebody that was only supposed to be there for like a season, and you're trying to keep them around. Nah, let them go.
You trying to make him Corona Bay.
Corona Bay. No, no sense. Not Corona Bay. You know, you have people who are going to be your people that you can lead to, be your advisors, people you can reach out to, those mentors, people who are going to be friends, some people who are supposed to only be associates. But I really want you to analyze who is taking from you more than supporting you. Uh-oh, he's back in. He's going to shut off the lights again. But really, I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to recognize, because think about the divorce rate has gotten higher. I read an article yesterday. There are lawyers being contacted more and more because we have been hiding so much with everything we've been doing that now we have to just sit. And now people are at home realizing like we're strangers, or I don't know you, or I don't like you. So think about that. This is an opportunity for you to disconnect from people who aren't serving you, who aren't pushing you, who are texting you every minute about somebody else died from the coronavirus. Oh, this person died. Did you know so-and-so had a coronavirus?
Right.
Those ain't the kind of messages you should be getting right now. You need to get things that are going to push you, inspire you, motivate you, and you're really going to tell who's really there to support you during this season. So I really want you to pay attention. What were those wins that you've had? Celebrate yourself more. Realize that you've been through season like this and you've gone through it and you've gotten past it. Recognize those big goals, bring them into little quarterly goals, weekly goals, and then finally make sure you're assessing those circles and you put people in the right.
Okay,
I know you like that message, right? And then just make sure that you really are. What's going on?
I did it wrong.
Okay, go get it for me and I'll be right there, okay? Go get an icy from daddy.
Ooh, icy. That's a good one. That's a good one.
That gives me about 5 minutes.
Made him in with candy. But again, make that last thing you do. You really assess your circles. You're around people. You're pouring. You're like getting on these lives every week. You're really serving yourself with good content to get you motivated. So those are some things that should help you in this season of really transitioning. So on the other side of this, you can walk into the promised land and see the benefits of applying those skills and those strategies.
I love that. Those are simple routines that anybody could put into their lives. And that's why I love that you are the leadership and team development strategist. Because how long does that take for us to do all of those three things on a daily basis? Even if you have to double up or do it hourly, those are three quick ways that we can keep ourselves motivated, get ourselves out of a funk, get ourselves out of, and sometimes it just becomes cloudy, right? All of the voices that you're hearing on social media, all of those wrong people that are texting you the wrong messages at the wrong time. And so daily having that checklist, that inventory. So I love that. Tell people how they can reach you, how they can utilize, particularly somebody that's maybe out there that has a team and they want to do the assessment.
Yes. So go to my website. It's aishathomas.org. My name is spelled Aisha, Thomas.org. You can follow me on @Miss Aisha Speaks, MSAISHA Speaks. But yeah, hit me up, DM me if you have any questions or concerns. If you need any support, if you just need, again, these strategies sent to you, please let me know. But hit me up, aishathomas.org, Miss Aisha Speaks, or check out my podcast, Internal Fire with the Y. But I'm, providing, I call it the Corona Defense series. So tune into that and check it out. And it has these type of strategies.
Amen. He said, amen. Actually talking good, huh, Pop? I love it. Well, thank you so much, Aisha. Thank you to all of the world changers, the leaders, the transformers that have tuned in today. If you have questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the comments and we'll come back and respond to them. And I'm going to share these resources with you. I'm also going to put the links in the comment section. Shout out to all of our transformational leaders, campus ministers and campus pastors and chaplains who are just doing amazing work, and they've been providing these resources to make sure that leaders during this time have what they need to be able to lead effectively. So we have shout out to the chaplain at Wiley who gave us this resource for Student Relief Fund from Scoli.com, Scoli.com. I'm going to put the link in the comment. If you're a student that needs some relief, you need some help right now, they're giving assistance away to students who are in vulnerable situations, because not everyone, being home for everyone is not a happy experience, right? Or there is not a necessary home for everyone to go through. So if you need some relief, we have that resource. We have Creating a Culture of Renewal. Shout out to our chaplain and campus minister at Jackson State University in Mississippi that has tons of digital materials and resources for students to embrace this time of renewal, like you said, Aisha. And then this is a really good resource. So some of us already have therapists, or you have a spiritual director, or you have an advisor and a mentor. And then there's some of us who just don't have the resources to take advantage of therapy or any kind of mental wellness resources. And so coloringmentalhealth.com is giving away resources. It's about 4 sessions where you could log on for free and get resources. A great space
love that.
for people to have some clarity. And so we'll put that also. And just, stay connected with us in the app. We're going to do the digital Bible study, and we're just loving on you as much as we can because we appreciate you being a part of the network. All right, go ahead, Pop. All right, listen, I love y'all. I gotta go be a mom. Have a good one.
All right, bye guys. Aww.